And this is vk3sl welcoming you to an afternoon missions. Today we are on board, very warm outside, and we thought we'd start with the music of Stravinsky. I just pulled this record off the shelf. It happens to be one of these Cook Sounds of Our Times records. Emery Cook was a audio pioneer in Boston. Came up with his own label, and this was probably as good as it got in the 1950s. So, yeah, we just heard the Orchestral Society of Boston with Willis Page, and that was music of Stravinsky's Concerto in D for String Orchestra. We just heard the last movement, Rondo. So there we have it. I'll start off, and we are getting slightly into the zone, and I think I will start off today with something from, following on from our example yesterday of Columbia Sound from 1926. Columbia always had the very best of Western Electric equipment, and they lend themselves remarkably well to reprocessing. And when we look for this sort of thing, one of the best places to go is the transfers of Mr. Prozoot. So let's have a listen to his take on a Columbia recording from that year. It's the California Ramblers, and I'm vk3sl.
Happiness lives only one day through, so give me today, tomorrow never will come.
California Ramblers from 1926, extolling the virtues of the Columbia Sound. It's remarkable how well they captured a tonal balance in those groups at that time. And I think we'll play another one. These recordings are just amazing. They sound really good through the speaks here. Let's hear another one. This one from 1927. Same band, the California Ramblers, and their take on a hit made by Paul Whiteman actually in 1927, but here is their take on Changes. I'm vk3sl, testing.
Don't you think she's fine? Oh, Lodo, I want you to know she's mine, oh mine. Get a load of those two dimples, why kisses taste like wine. Oh, Lodo, I want you to know she's mine, oh mine. And if she didn't have a cent to her name, that wouldn't matter, I'd still love her the same. But her dad has lots of money, it'll all be hers in time. Oh, Lodo, I want you to know she's mine, oh mine.
It's about as good as dance band music got in 1927. The California Ramblers, recordings made for Columbia, sort of celebrating the Columbia sound, their use of the Western Electric system with their Vivatone records. None of these were released in Australia, but they've been sublimely reprocessed and put up on the tube. I don't know how Mr. Pros is able to articulate such clean bass. There's so much grain in the lower end of the ensemble. Bass saxophone just cuts through. Now, I did actually play the wrong track. I played Mine All Mine. Now, let me get this right. We'll hear another. This one is Changes, 1927. vk3sl.
Beautiful, beautiful changes. those beautiful changes in
different keys,
beautiful changes and
harmonies. He starts in C, then changes to D. He's fooling around, most any old key.
What's that, dear, that minor strain? That's it, there it goes again. There's so many babies that he can squeeze, and he's always changing those keys.
Listening to a selection of 20s hits recorded in 1927 and 26 and 27. And this is vk3sl test missions on 160 and also on UHF. That's 438.725. So there we go. That's the place to be. Warm afternoon. It is stifling in here. What we'll do now is defer to the real turntable. We have a Regal Zonophonium on the platter. Does that make sense? You know what I mean. Anyhow, it's a recording of Fats Waller and his rhythm from about 1936, and a very big hit. In fact, it's the B-side of Honey Hush, and we'll hear You Meet the Nicest People in Your Dreams.
Nice people, fine people, Arabian people, yes, yes, I've met some very nice people, some very, very, very nice people, but you meet the nicest people in your dreams. It's funny, but it's true, and that's where I first met you, and you're the nicest, paradisest thing I ever knew. I've looked the universe over, from Wackenack to Dover, and now that we have met, how sweet it seems. I love you more the more I know you, which only goes to show you, you meet the nicest people in your dreams. Universe over, from Wackenack to Dover, and now that we have met, how sweet it seems. I love you more, I know you, which only goes to show you, you meet the nice people in your dreams. Oh, fine people, grand people, most rambunctious people in your dreams. Yes, yes.
Fats Waller and his Rhythm, one of his big hits on Regal Zonophone. This is vk3sl testing on 160 and on UHF, and we're spinning 78s as we do, using authentic material where possible. It's the name of the game, and it's an excuse to explore the collection here. So we'll now have some spoken word. This is an interesting album. This turned up in an op shop in Wonthaggi on the way through to Inverloch last week. Stopped off at the junk shop, and lo and behold, there is an album of 78s, about 6 records, called The Sound of Time. It's a dramatisation in sound of the years 1934 to 1949, and it says here, told in the voices that made history and illustrated by the great events that are part of it. So it's a completely fascinating series, mainly sort of very wartime oriented, but looking at the sort of global politics at that time and with real authentic examples. Now, this was a real treat finding this, but I was a bit saddened to find that one of the records in the set had a huge crack, and now I'm saying a crack which was had widened so much that I could look through it, and you could fit a 5-cent piece through the crack. It had opened up over the years, so which usually renders a disc useless. So I thought I'd try something different today, and I put the record out in the hot sun to the point where it started to melt on a very flat surface. You've got to make sure you have got no corrugations or anything on the surface, otherwise you get the imprint, and the record becomes a piece of plasticine. And very gently I massaged the sides together and met the crack up, and I was able to do it by sort of moulding it, and did it a couple of times on both sides, and then let it cool down very slowly. And lo and behold, it looks like it might be playable. So I've got the noise reduction system set up, and we'll just hear one sample. This is side 5. It says here, New World Rallies to the Old. So we'll hear Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. We hear Franklin Roosevelt and General Douglas MacArthur. And, it goes on. There's quite a bit of material here, so we'll just sample this, see how it goes. If the crack is jumping all over the place, I'll have to abort and go back to the heating up the record and see if I can mould it. But for the time being, we'll give it a go and see what happens. The Sounds of Time, written by Frederick Mullally, it says. Frederick Mullally, and narrated by John Snagg. Produced by Brian George for Oriole Records through the BBC. vk3sl.
Congress of the Lend-Lease Act, these were the first 3 climacterics of the war. The 4th came at 4 a.m. on June the 22nd, 1941, when Hitler invaded the Soviet Union. Now, Britain had a tough fighting ally in Europe. 6 months later, America reeled under the shock of Japanese treachery at Pearl Harbor, then flexed its mighty sinews for total war. Before Congress, Franklin Delano Roosevelt pledged his faith in a victory that he never lived to see.
No matter how long it may take us to overcome this premeditated invasion, the American people in their righteous might will win through to absolute victory.
Now it was global war. Swept from Malaya, Burma, and the Pacific Islands by the first fierce tidal wave of Japanese militarism, the democracies regrouped their land, sea, and air forces, while the great arsenal of America forged and sharpened the weapons of retribution. And on March the 21st, 1942, a new comradeship in arms was declared at Spencer Street Station, Melbourne, by General Douglas MacArthur.
I am glad indeed to be in immediate cooperation with the Australian soldier. I know him well from World War days and admire him greatly.
On the other side of the world, in Britain, war workers on the production front sang with new heart at their benches and lathes. Deep in a Surrey wood one night, the BBC set up its microphone to capture the song of the nightingale. The engineer's vigilance was rewarded, and then a grim new meaning was given to the words of the Greek poet Callimachus. Thy nightingales live on, I hear them sing. E'en death spares them, who spares not anything. In the background is the sound of death. Death airborne by 1,000 British bombers droning out to strike at the heart of Hitler's Reich. Listen now to a recording made inside a Lancaster bomber as it weaves over the German capital. Through the intercom, the crew is reporting its battle with a German night fighter.
Where is he, rear gunner? Can you see him? Down! 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 He's shot down! He's shot down! Did you shoot him down? Yeah, he's got him, boy! Right in the middle! Bloody good!
But now, 2,000 miles to the south, Rommel stood with his Africa Corps at the gates of Cara, and famine threatened the besieged Mediterranean fortress of Malta. Suddenly, a new spirit swept through Britain's 8th Army. The officers caught it first when they assembled at Army headquarters on August the 13th, 1942, to hear their new commander, General Montgomery.
Here we will stand and fight. There will be no further withdrawal. I have ordered that all plans and instructions dealing with further withdrawal are to be burnt, and at once. The great point to remember is that we are going to finish with this chap Rommel once and for all. It'll be quite easy, there's no doubt about it. He is definitely a nuisance. Therefore, we will hit him a crack and finish with him.
And there we have it, side 5 of the series there, The Sounds of Time. Fascinating material. I certainly recognise that recording of the bombers. Now, I just realised I didn't have the sub-mixer switched in. Sorry about that, folks. A little bit disorganised here. So, Frank, acknowledging your call, and we are now active on 2 metres. So, but I can't. What I might do is turn that record over. I'm keen to hear if side 6 plays. Side 5 sort of works reasonably well considering how bad that crack was, how warped the record was. But I'll just have to head over to the turntable and do the proverbial flip-o-matic. So very carefully lift this record off. Oh, it's fragile and the crack's still partially open, but not as bad as before. And we'll give it a go.
Struck. The sounds you are listening to now are the sounds of the 8th Army's artillery barrage blasting open at El Alamein, a triumphant road that led on to Tripoli and Rome. Then came that great day for which an enslaved continent had waited and prayed. For months, the quiet lanes and ports of southern England had absorbed a vast concentration of men and weapons. Behind locked doors in London, service commanders and scientists had planned and replanned the greatest amphibious invasion in military history. When all was ready, the quiet voice of Ike Eisenhower heralded D-Day 1944.
People of Western Europe, a landing was made this morning on the coast of France by troops of the Allied Expeditionary Force. This landing is part of the concerted United Nations plan for the liberation of Europe.
In Nazi-occupied Paris, patriots heard that voice and were to remember it 3 months later when the capital greeted its liberators. But El Alamein, Rome, Paris, Brussels are milestones. Between them, men died, whole towns and villages were wiped out, and new epics were written into the annals of military fame. At Arnhem, for 8 days, the 1st Airborne Division clung desperately to a bridgehead ringed and pulverized by Nazi guns, mortars, and bombs. If you want to know what hell sounds like, listen to this recording made at Arnhem itself by one of the men who came back, BBC correspondent Stanley Maxted.
You can hear the kind of flight that those planes are flying through. It's absolutely like hail up there. all around us are just simply hammering at those planes. But so far I haven't seen any of them hit. But the bundles are coming down. The parachutes are coming down. That's all that these men ask.
In London, the last robot plane had dipped its warhead and dived from the sky. One final trick was to be pulled out of the bag of perverted Nazi science before the British people knew the peace of friendly skies. The V2, outstripping sound in its lightning plunge from the stratosphere. But now the Allied armies were chasing the shattered Wehrmacht across the Rhine.
We're in. The Buffalo dips its nose down the bank, and now it's opening up full power. 3 minutes to go, and we are racing across, and side by side with us go racing the other Buffaloes, racing for that hell on the other side. The searchlights cast a white beam now right across the river on one side of us, but ahead of us is only red water. The current's carrying us down, and we're putting up our nose against it, going clean across it all the time. And the tracers making a path on either side of us, beating down the opposition.
Deep into Nazi Germany plunged the racing columns of mechanized armies. And as they advanced, they tore aside veils that had shielded the worst of Hitler's infamies from outside eyes. A wave of horror swept across the civilized world when the armies of liberation reached the gates, 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 reached the gates of Belsen, Dachau. Out of the nightmare of those charnel houses, the living shell men tottered into the arms of wives, and humanity bowed its head in shame, in shame, in shame, in shame.
Das war so eine schwere Zeit für mich. Und ich freue mich, dass ich euch alle gesund und munter wiedersehe. Alle Freunde und Bekannte, alle Genossen, ja, es wird wieder gut. Mami.
Well, that's absolutely heart-wrenching, that last segment. Yeah, there we have it. The Sounds of Time. And that was record, I think, 5 in the series. There's quite a set here, about 6 or 7. And we'll feature them in further missions. They were written by Frederick Mullally and narrated by John Snagg. The Sounds of Time, 1934 to 1949, dramatisation of sounds of that time. So a recent find, which we've explored today. So just another reminder that we've got 2 meters open there. Frank, if you want to chime in. I haven't had a chance to listen to your message. Maybe you've got other things on, but I realised I didn't have the mixer switched in. Now, on the other table, we have a recording of Frank Sinatra. This record is one of his big hits, Birth of the Blues, and was recorded in 1951. This is vk3sl.
These are the blues, nothing but blues. Oh, they say some people long ago were searching for a different tune, one that they could croon as only they can. They only had the rhythm, so they started swaying to and fro. They didn't know just what to use. This is how the blues really began. They heard the breeze in the trees, singing weird melodies, and they made the start of the blues. And from a dale came the wail of a down-hearted frail, and they played that as a part of the blues. From a whippoorwill way up on a hill, they took a new note, pushed it through a horn until it was worn into a blue note. And then they nursed it, they rehearsed it, and then sent out that news that the Southland gave birth to the blues. They nursed it, then they rehearsed it, and they sent out that news that the Southland, they gave birth to the
Well, Frank Sinatra in diminished quality on that recording.
Yeah, a bit scratchy, wasn't it?
Yeah, not too good.
Yeah. Anyway, you got my email about the quality, so 160 is excellent.
Yes, indeed. Thank you.
It's made, look, I couldn't listen to that splat. It was
Okay.
crap. That's why I relayed it. I just had to block over it to get rid of that absolute
Yes,
crap.
the Splattermatics.
It was
Yeah, I know.
terrible.
Yep.
And the other thing is that you've played that wartime stuff. Which
Yes.
is amazing find, that record.
Yes, it's a whole set, a whole album of 78s from 1949. It's astonishing. It's all from the BBC.
That's amazing, and they used a bit of that, the aircraft recording.
Indeed, that's right. That's familiar. How many missions did we do on that?
Yes, it's been used a lot, and it's been verified. It is real from the aircraft.
Yeah.
As we've seen.
Yes.
But yeah, that wartime stuff. It's interesting. I remember, the whole that crap that they have to people put up with for 6 years.
Yes.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
Mm.
In fact, my old man was a manager of a engineering company after in the 50s.
Yes.
And he hired quite a few engineers, machinists, whatever, from Germany, Jewish, people who have been refugees.
Yes.
And he hired them and he used to bring them around for tea and we talked to them and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
And I thought, they're just normal people, but they had a funny accent,
Yeah,
that
sure.
German, which I found quite fascinating, something a bit different.
Yes.
And anyway, I was about 9 or 10 or something, must have been bored one afternoon, and I was looking through the bookshelf and I found a Meanjin magazine, which was the arts magazine from Melbourne University.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if I pronounced it right.
No,
anyway.
I know the one. Yes.
And I looked through I thought this is a boring magazine. Looked through the index, and there's an article by a Platz, I forget his name, someone Platz.
Yes.
I thought, oh, that's the guy, we've had around here for tea and stuff.
Okay, so you recognised him in the magazine.
Yep, so I thought, I'll read this article.
Yeah.
And the article was called The Politics of Heaven and Hell.
Oh, right. I'm going to write that down. I wonder if it's online.
Yeah. And I read it, and for the first time, I realised what shit that, like, he had been through hell in the concentration camps. And the first time, probably 9 or 10 years old, I realised that the world is actually shit.
Yeah.
And I think those sort of opinions have continued on to now.
Mm-hmm.
And I just read this thing, And he described his life in the concentration camps and stuff. I thought, this is just shit, you know.
Yeah.
And he's come out the other end like a normal person.
Yeah, well, it's extraordinary
I couldn't believe it.
that the resilience of humankind, people can go through unbelievable turmoil.
He was the only person in his family who survived.
Is that right?
And he came to Australia, worked as a machinist or something, worked his way up.
Yes.
And I just found it amazing.
How extraordinary is that?
Yep.
So this was an art. So was it like a literary piece that he
It was a
wrote?
literary piece, yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay.
I forget the year. I have years ago. We had the article here.
Yes.
The magazine fell to bits.
Yeah.
And I've got the pages of that actual article.
Well, I've just written it down. The Politics of Heaven and Hell by Mr. Platz.
That's right.
P-L-A-T-Z, presumably.
That's right. Yep.
And I'll do some research because I would love to hear more about that story.
Yep.
And when there's a personal connection, it just becomes so much more immediate, doesn't it?
It is amazing. And look, the old man used to bring these people in and give them a job.
Yes.
And he was like friends to them. They'd come around and stuff.
Sure.
And I remember once, which is quite amazing. I was going off. Of course, we had at our school we had a lot of Jewish people and stuff like that. And I came home and I said, look, the Jews, they've got all these holidays. We don't get the holidays. Did I get a blasting?
Yeah, right.
You wouldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, so that's sort of, you know.
Yeah, well, it puts things into. I mean, it's easy to make assumptions.
It does. And it's just, like that. The article it hit me like a sledgehammer when I read it.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just one story of probably a million.
That's it.
10 million stories.
That's it. I remember when I did that little tenure thing at Rip and Lee, I went and spent some time at the Holocaust Museum, and of course it's just wall to wall of just the most horrible stories imaginable. And of course, and many people affected directly did end up in Australia, and particularly in Melbourne. So lots of extraordinary stories.
Amazing stuff.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely incredible. Well, that's a real tale there, Mr. Platz. And
the Politics of Heaven and Hell.
Wow. And
probably worth reading it. Last time I looked, probably years ago, it wasn't online. It might be online
I expect it might be. It might be under. It might be in one of the 12.
Yeah, and it'll be around the early 50s, 51, 2, 3, 4, or something like that.
Sure. Yeah. Well, that sounds just extraordinary, and I suppose people just find another, I don't know, an inner sort of. You must sort of recalibrate everything when you're under such extraordinary pressure and such intense.
And the thing is, by the 50s, people were sick of it. They didn't want to hear about it.
Yeah.
And that's why it was like repressed.
Yes.
And I realise now why parents and people who lived through the war never talked about it because it's crap. They don't want to relive the shit.
No, well, that's right.
What we've had the last few years is a microcosm of what happened in the Second World War.
Oh, look, absolutely.
And we don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And they didn't want to talk about it, you know.
Yeah. Oh, it's probably too close to the nerve.
Exactly. So you never get an idea of what they really felt.
No.
Because they didn't want to.
Wanted to share.
It.
That's exactly it.
All they want to do is forget about it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Forget about bad things like this.
Well, especially when you move to another country and you're trying to start again, you're redefining yourself, and you don't want to have that baggage and all that, all of the complexity and the post-traumatic stress and all the terrible things that happen.
That's right. Yeah. It's quite remarkable. So there's a bit of an interest in that.
Well, that's a great story. Thank you for that, Mr. Platz. So we'll definitely we'll do some research and find out.
Yeah, sure.
We might even be able to get
I'm sure he's long gone now.
Yeah.
And
so did he stay at your father's workshop for his factory for long?
Oh,
I suppose.
A few years, maybe.
Yeah,
I mean, I wasn't that interested back in those days, you know.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, he stayed at that factory from 1928 to when did he leave? 70 or 80 or something like that.
Right.
Like, he spent all his life
his entire working life in that one place.
And he should have left and done something else, but he never did.
Yeah.
But it's quite interesting. And the other story I had about him being in Shanghai and stuff. That was.
I know. I was just thinking of that story. Well, your father, he actually experienced something like that himself, being in
right,
in prison.
Yeah, he went to Japan to work out the engineering stuff and what was needed to be doing and stuff. And he got stuck in Shanghai. And so all it's to do with working for that factory.
Yes.
And, and the depressing thing is that the people who owned it,
Yeah.
they said, look, we won't pay you much. We'll give lots of shares in the company,
Yeah, right.
private shares.
Yes.
And so that's okay. I work for basically nothing. I've got all this money. When I retire, I get it.
Yeah.
The company was bought out by a multinational,
Yes.
and his shares were worth nothing.
Oh no, that's terrible.
So yeah.
Oh, that's tragic. I mean, that's the way things go sometimes. Yeah, you can't hedge your bets. Oh well, that's great. Well, and Mr. Frank, you're on board?
Yes, back from the lunch, long lunch.
Oh, very good. Yeah,
a long lunch, eh?
Yeah.
A long lunch.
Yes, a bit of a warm one today.
So how's the mitters going okay? It's stuck at 15 milliamps drive, not going
Yeah,
bad?
look, it seems to be pretty stable. It wasn't stable when I was setting it up, but it seems to be okay. Yep, holding up nicely.
What I found was if you look at the antenna current,
Yep.
and you wind up the drive, it'll go up to a peak and then start dropping back.
Yes,
Just
I've
leave it at that peak.
Exactly. I found that sweet spot. I was judiciously following that lead, and no, it's sitting comfortably. It took a while to get the code in to give the right amount of drive.
Right. Okay.
And it's just because the code had to be woken up. It hadn't been used for years. I used a different one because I've kept the other system as a standby in case I need it. And so getting that code in set up, and I found that most of my leads were crap. I got to get some good leads because you move them a bit and everything drops out and goes
That's
silly.
what I found. There's crap leads that jump up in the level and stuff.
I know,
The BNC leads.
and I went through about half a dozen leads before I found something. It was only a brand new BNC lead that worked in the end. So, but I had to put lots of jumpers on it. So I'll refine that a little bit further. But look, it's holding up very nicely, and that new amp is. PA amp is very good. So this is the first time.
I've done hundreds of hours relaying your crap.
Yes, it certainly has.
And it's got the two original valves that came in the black mitters.
Oh yes.
And what I've worked out, of course, that the transformer it's quite low voltage.
Yep.
And I got 4807s that gave the maximum output of that low voltage.
Ah, so you found it.
And included the two that were in the other amp.
Yes.
That you had.
Yes.
And I found some others that seemed to just work on 500 volts and give a lot of power.
Oh, that's very good. So it's just finding a happy synergy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So because it sort of just loafs along, it doesn't show any signs of once it's stable. It has been touch wood.
Yes, that's right. Well, it sounds okay here.
Yeah.
And lots of bass, lots of tings, and basically with the UM3, whatever you put into it comes out. There's no
I know.
at all.
That's most excellent. Now the only thing I haven't quite organised yet, I've still got the mod monitor in the room here, so I'm going to put another line out and get that sorted. So I haven't quite got to the point of monitoring off air, although I've got the current meter, so I know if things drop out, and I've got the SDR to check as well. But I'll have the mod monitor going in the next little while.
That the Mr. What's his name in Burwood or LTW.
Yes.
His signal's so pathetic, isn't it? I hope it's not listening, but it can hardly pick you up.
Yeah, well.
And when I come on, I can hardly hear myself on it.
Yeah, well, look, it works okay here for him. I mean, he's very local to here, so it gives me a reasonable indication, and no one else is using it. Whereas the other one, Mr. Loops, is often quite busy.
Yeah, that's right.
And but that's okay. And look, we're very lucky to have these SDRs. It makes everything so much easier.
They make so much difference. And so how are you getting him, Frank, on the new mitters?
You there, Frank?
Getting him very well. Getting him very well indeed. Sounds good.
Yeah, I've never run this much power on 160 before, so it's quite exciting. And having the mitters located in the garage means there's a reasonable distance between the pickups, and I'm not getting any interactions with the pickups, which is
that right?
That was my big concern. And
are you running more power with this one?
Yeah, a little bit more. It's around about 100 watts. But
okay, well, I'm getting you 30 over 9 instead of 20 over 9, so obviously that doesn't reflect the power increase, but there's some vagary happening there.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, well, only 30 watts on the splat meters, so it's a big...
Yeah, look, it's a big improvement, and it's fully modulated.
Audio quality sounds pretty good to me on my limited filter situation.
Yeah, sure. And I've now put some pre-emphasis in. I boosted all the highs and as
I said in the email, on the super wireless, it just sounds fantastic.
Right.
Sounds like FM.
And,
so it's a worthwhile. So all the DX listeners will be able to hear you now.
Yeah, well, this is it. It's a new frontier. So, yeah, getting organised.
You're sounding really good tonight. You were, in fact, a little overloading this morning talking to the people there.
I was using a different. I've used the barometers for that one because this new one that Dave's helped me with is really just for transmit only, and I haven't got relays and things set up with it.
TX.
So whereas the barometers has got all the switching and relays and everything, so it makes sense to use that. And I'll just use the other Bash PA amp, even if the quality's not great. It serves the purpose for just general comms.
Yeah, that radio parts one used to be okay. Maybe it's popped or something.
Well, it's just it seems to be, I don't know. The 90 volt line wasn't going at all. And I could have opened up and had a poke around. 70 volts was sort of okay, but it just had a very square waveform. It was
have a look, see if the 90 volt thing's 100 volt thing's connected.
Maybe
I only ever used that on 8 ohms or something. Maybe.
Maybe you used it just for high-sync modulation. That's a thought. Maybe, I don't know, but that's the way I use it. Of course, I don't use it with the 100. I don't use it with the UM3 or a proper modulation transformer.
But those PA amps, they go so cheap at Hamfest.
Yeah, I know.
No, the total 5 amps. I mean, they're really no one seems to care about them.
Yes,
they're amazing things.
That's right. It's certainly worth picking them up. And but that the one I'm using now, and which I previously used, is very stable. It doesn't even get hot.
No.
And you can.
And the 400 watt one I got at Sorrento a couple of years back.
Yeah.
I think I paid $120 for it. It's obviously popped.
Oh.
Who's going to sell a 400 watt audio amp for $100?
Yeah.
And it works perfectly.
It works. Okay.
It's just incredible power.
Yeah. Well, having that overhead is. So what did you say? It had a sign on it saying it didn't work or something?
No. When he said, it works perfectly, I thought, sure.
Yeah.
And it does.
Oh, okay.
There's no problem with it at all.
Oh, right. Very good. Oh, I'm pleased.
It's got a noisy fan. That's the main thing. Reason I don't use it.
It's a monster machine. It looks like something from one of those big event PA racks.
Well, it would be. Yeah, that's right. Just incredible power.
Yeah.
And it just it's got. I think I did a whole video on it. But it's got amazing line of transistors and stuff.
Yep. Sure.
So it's amazing what you can get for for quite cheap these days.
Yes, it certainly
don't seem to recognise them.
Yeah, that's it. Or when we start getting Hamfests again, look out for...
yes, in the year 2020. 2020, 2050 or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, well, they might come again. And I've got a lot of stuff here, which I'm glad I didn't throw out because I'm using it all up. And
I had one I gave to Anthony. I'm sort of but I think it was only about 70 watts or 80 watts, or 60 maybe or something. It wasn't very powerful, so I sort of just let it go.
Yeah, you need 100 watts or more.
Yeah, you need something that's going to.
And those 6CM5 amps aren't that good,
Yeah.
They say 100 watts or maybe 50 if you're lucky.
Yep. And all the 6CM5s are all sort of...
Yeah, there's only like 275 on the plates. I mean, really, they're not anywhere near stressed.
No. And, but most of them are popped, though, you say. Most of the valves.
Well, I've just been there probably for 30 years running.
Yeah, that's it.
All the TV valves, which had a lot of voltage on the plate, and they just wore out over time.
Yes.
But so it's interesting. So it's just as well you're going to the off shops and getting those historic recordings.
Well, it's amazing what's out there. There's so many records in the shops, and I don't think no one wants 78, so I'm a bit careful about them. I might get a 20s hit here or there or something, but this was a real find. And this album. I mean, I'll feature the other tracks, and it's all on YouTube, but it's nothing like playing the original.
That's right.
And
John Snag, of course, he did the. I used to play it quite a bit. He did the big news BBC announcement of when D-Day started.
Oh, right.
He goes, D-Day has commenced.
Okay.
And he goes through all the stuff, and BBC voice, and the big studio talking through a Reese microphone or something. And he's got that really official John... Here's the news read by John Snag. I mean,
The voice of
names
authority.
those people are just ridiculous, weren't they?
Yes, oh, look, absolutely. Like Mr. Stanton Hicks. Yeah. And, well, I dare say that particular recording is in the series because it's all from him, and it's got D-Day. It's got a lot of
it'll have
wartime
Mr.
events.
Snag.
Yeah.
Yeah, he goes, 5:30 a.m. this morning, D-Day was commenced.
Right.
50 million ships went over to blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing. And, of course, he would have been one of the first to know about it.
Yes, he would have got privileged status.
Yeah, Mr. Snag, look, this is happening this morning. Don't tell anyone.
Yes, that's
Don't
right.
go to the pub and just talk about it.
Yes.
Because the Germans are listening
And that's
on
right.
the line.
That's it.
And, yes, it's just amazing.
Yeah, incredible. Yeah, all right. Well, we'll continue. I've got another disc on the table, and actually I just found another batch of records which I never knew, including a lot of continental stuff.
You must have so much stuff there. I think when you were playing those things a few months back, just willy-nilly, there's amazing stuff there. You just consider it crap, but it actually is quite amazing.
Yeah, well, I just didn't know it, I suppose, and I actively collect it. So
and
you sort
Frank, of course, knows exactly what, he knows every title and every
That's right.
every
Well,
record.
it certainly helps to have an encyclopedia.
I'm blushing.
Yes, it's great to have your brain's trust and all the information at hand. It's just been great, and it's your era, of course, Frank. And it's brought it all to life, and that's the name of the game. That's why I'm sort of enjoying so much about all of this, is the fact that you can discover new things, new frontiers. So yeah, and look, as I've said the story many times, but most of these records I haven't even listened to since I was very young. So yeah, it's a bit of a retrospective.
What you've done and what you've got.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Absolutely. Oh, I tell you what I did find. I found this afternoon I was sifting through, I'm putting new covers on them and just checking what's there. And I found a very early ragtime recording of sort of a concert band playing a ragtime piece, but it is really interesting. It's pre-jazz, it's a bit klezmer-esque,
right.
And it's got the signature sounds of what was to evolve into syncopated dance music and later on jazz and so forth.
That's right.
So, and this goes back to about 1910, and it's a comic rag, it says.
Right.
Yes.
Total history. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah, so look, I'll play that. I'll have to dig it up. I've put it on the shelf, but while looking for it, I'll have a recording of...
Yeah, I think it's just like that crossover stuff when things just happened.
Yeah.
It's quite... I've always been fascinated by it, and the turnover point.
Yeah.
And,
look, it's intensely interesting. In fact, I can just walk over here. I'll be off mic for a sec. I can turn it round. There we go. And I will lean it over into the shelf, and we'll have a look for it. Is it here? Is it here? Is it here? Is that the one? Yes, it's called A Slippery Place. The US Naval Reserve Band. Must be early. It's pre-First World War for sure. And it's a comic rag played by them, so I'll just cue it up.
Got a label?
It's a Regal 78, which is the budget label for Columbia.
Right.
And it's been sort of partially wrecked by steel needles digging in things, but look, it's okay, and it's playable. I did sample it, and it is most interesting. And you'll hear the sliding trombone certainly gets characterized in this performance. So yeah, let's have a listen to A Slippery Place is the name of the disc. Do we have a slippery place there with the US Naval?
Sounded really good, and on the GE Super Wireless sounded fantastic.
Ah, that's great. The trombone sounded like the Lancaster Bombers there, doing their nosedives. Yes,
that's right.
It sounded a little bit like an aerodrome. Oh, I can't date it. It's a reissue, but I think it's about 1910, so it's pretty early.
Amazing.
So yeah, it sounds.
For 110 years old.
That's it. And but look, you can hear all that. They're on the front of the beat. They're sort of, it's ragtime type syncopation, and of course all of that. Those tailgate trombone lines sort of connecting things. They
love the slide trombone.
They certainly did. And of course the Dixieland original ODJB picked up on that and sort of exploited it further and made it into a bit of a small ensemble thing. And then it sort of all went from there. But these records are significant in the scheme of things. But any early ragtime stuff really tells a story and connects the dots.
It's the bridge, isn't it?
It certainly is, very much so. And yeah, you hear the all the antecedents of that, particularly dance band music, which in itself evolved into a myriad of other things. Is that the word?
Really, that could have passed for trad jazz, isn't it?
Well, almost. It's right. Yeah, in many respects, it can, and you get that sense that it's grounded in the brass band tradition as well. So it sort of, has many connections. But I'm looking out for records like that. They're the ones I'm going to put aside.
Musicologically, without getting too technical, that's pretty important, that sort of stuff.
Well, I think so. I think it is, because it's sort of, with the benefit of hindsight, we can see the way it forms the newer styles, particularly in the freedom of melodic shape and stuff like that. I won't get too technical. It's great music. I tell you what, though, in this pile I was going through another box. This is a box of records I haven't looked at since 1990 something. It was when Kate's 30th. We went down to Wilson's prom, and we went down with the string quartet, whole of musicians, and we hired out about 4 of those little cabins. They were really cheap then. And we just played chamber music non-stop for a couple of days.
Right.
And I brought a one-up gramophone along for just some light relief, and a whole box of 78s of tangos and sort of exotic stuff. And there's some terrific recordings there, and I'd completely forgotten about it. And I found the box just before, a couple of days ago. And there's some good missions fodder in that lot as well. So we can, including some good Spanish music and quite a lot of, here's one here of Edmundo Ross and his rumba band.
Yes.
And I can put one on. We can have a listen. All these records are Mr. Sheen. They used to Mr. Sheen all my 78s back then. And especially playing on the one-up gramophone, because it just means that they're a little bit quieter and and it doesn't wind down not quite so much resistance, and you can get more plays out of without having to wind it too much. So that's the benefit of doing that. But it's a bit of a taboo subject. Some collectors think it's the absolute sacrilege, but I think you've just got to enjoy your records. You can do what you like with them. So we can play one. Here we go. Edmundo Ross from the Coconut Grove in Spanish. Taboo is the name of the piece. That's a good name for us. That's a good name for a song. It's on a Parlophone 78 from about 1938.
Ifa, Batalaba Shango Nemaya Oshun. Ifa, Batalaba Shango Nemaya.
siempre las palmeras, los bosques y selvas primitivas de dioses misteriosos y fieras.
Batalava Shango Nemaya Oshun Ifa Batalava Shango Nemaya
Tabu, 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 tabu.
Anyaguariero, Anyaguariero, Anyaguariero Bongo, Anyaguariero. Anyaguariero, 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 Ungo, Anyaguariero.
Tabu, 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 tabu.
From the Coconut Grove in late 1930s, I think, and an early recording of Window Ross. And there's that quiet melancholy in that tune, in the minor key. It's very beguiling. Yeah, so there's more from that same batch of interest. Yeah, it's an Edith Piaf record.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, we can have a sample of this one. It's on the Decca. It's all in French. I haven't got that many French records. But
Little Sparrow.
Yeah.
That's what they called it.
Okay. Oh, yes, they did too. That's right. I think there was a bit of a biop about her made recently. It'd be good to see it.
Had a fascinating life.
Yeah.
Pretty hard.
I gather that's the case. Yes, I believe she had a...
She was a prostitute.
Yeah, I remember reading that about Edith Piaf. Extraordinary. Well, I don't know which side to play because I can't read French and it's just a stab in the dark. So we'll just slap it on and have a listen. From 1940 Mumble.
Lovely.
Plaisir à Dieu. Il est plus pur, il est plus clair que l'eau limpide des rivières. Mon cœur étouffe quand tu es là. Ne touche pas à tout cela. Si un jour tu brisais notre amour, si un jour tu partais pour sombrerait dans la nuit, les pauvres dans leur nid ne chanteraient plus, leur chant est perdu. Si un jour tu brisais notre amour, si un jour tu partais pour toujours, les fleurs perdraient leur parfum et se feraient la fin. Bien plus beau qu'un rayon de lune dans l'eau. Lorsque tu pars quelques instants, c'est comme la neige au printemps. Tu reviens, tu me tends les bras. Ne touche pas à tout cela. depuis l'espoir pour de l'avenir ne chanterait plus. La chose est perdue. Si un jour tu brisais notre amour, si un jour tu partais pour toujours, les fleurs perdraient leur parfum et ce serait la fin de toute joie. Reste avec moi, crois-moi c'est vrai, j'en mourrais si tu partais.
Oh, that's something else, that record. Edith Piaf. There is such a compelling, raw energy about her and her delivery.
She is.
Yeah, it's larger than life. It's like listening to that. I was listening the other day to that Janis Joplin, a couple of Janis Joplin tracks, and that sort of way artists can just. It's beyond committed. it's sort of they become one with their subject. It's like a metamorphosis or something. It's art in its most powerful, emotional. I don't know, something.
Yeah, it's quite amazing. I listened to a few Janis tracks this morning.
Yes.
And I'm glad no one else was in the house.
Oh, good.
It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
To see someone so committed to their
Yeah.
stuff.
Yep.
And Piaf was probably the same. I mean,
Yes.
it just it's beyond a normal thing, really.
Yeah, it is. I agree. It is. It's like an extra measure of aliveness, I suppose, because they really become their subject, and they become, there's emotion in music, and there's impeccable delivery and all those things, but then there's something about it's a tribal sort of thing. It's incredible.
Imagine if you had the skills to exactly express what you wanted to express. That must be an amazing experience.
Yes, I think so.
And probably that's why they only live a few years, because
Yeah.
it's so telling on their whole system.
Yes, indeed.
But yeah, I mean, we've all got our ideas, and if you could express that in music, it'd be just amazing.
I know. It's a really. I find that subject so interesting, and I know that feeling of playing passionately and playing energetically and finding that trying to find that, but never always feeling like I can never get to the core of what for what I want to express. And these people seem to take it all another whole another level.
Piaf had a lovely track called "Me Lord," which became very popular.
Oh, really? I might dial up a couple of Janices in a minute, but I like to. I'm not aware of having many Piaf records in the collection here. So while I've got it in my hand, I'll play the other side. And, yeah, but look, I'm not even going to try and pronounce this. It's all in French. So it's a French Decca. So let's have another track from Edith Piaf.
Cloche sonne ce matin pour la mort de notre voisin. Sa femme, elle a bien du chagrin, mais moi, ça ne me fait rien. Les gens qui sont autour du corps, les gens qui sont près de la mort, font semblant d'avoir du chagrin, mais moi, je sais que ça ne leur fait rien. Allez-vous-en les hypocrites, la mort est chose fantastique. Laissez cette femme et son chagrin, puisqu'à vous ça ne vous fait rien. Quand mon bien-aimé, de ce jour où tu m'as quitté. Les gens, eux, ils s'en foutaient bien, mais moi j'avais bien du chagrin. J'avais mis mes amis d'or pour rester seul avec mon corps, pour me souvenir de tes baisers. Si tu savais comme j'ai pleuré. Le monde a continué de rire et moi j'avais comme du délire. Si tu savais mon bien-aimé, si tu savais comme ça fait pleurer. Un jour les cloches vont sonner, elles sonneront à toute volée. Ça sera pour toi mon bien-aimé, ta dernière heure aura sonné. Autour de toi seront tes amis, ils diront tous pour amis, c'était un garçon épatant, s'en foutant éperdument. J'entends déjà les cloches sonner pour la mort de mon bien-aimé, qui m'a fait tant et tant pleurer que je ne pourrai plus pleurer. Les cloches sonnent ce matin pour la mort de notre voisin. Sonnez les cloches, sonnez bien, puisqu'à moi ça ne me fait plus rien.
Well, there you have it, finished on the subdominant there.
It did. It's interesting, like, I love to know French, and like when I went to school we learned French, which was useless. I used to think, why don't we learn Italian or Greek? Because there's actually people I know.
Yes.
And I thought, I don't know anybody who speaks French. Nobody.
Yeah.
But tons of people know Italian and French,
Yes.
Italian and Greek and a few other languages. I thought, it's totally stupid someone in Australia learning French.
Yeah.
Because they never said that it was such an important language culturally and all that sort of stuff.
That's right.
It was never expressed to us that, look, if you know French, it's actually quite a good thing. And so we thought, well, why learn some language that's totally useless? Might as well learn, some weird language that no one even knows about.
Yes.
And, I think it's a failing in the education system not to express, look, if you understand French, you're actually in a better position worldwide or whatever.
Well, that's the travesty of education, is that things are never fully understood in context, and it makes no sense. So many subjects makes no sense to young people. Why learn it? Because there's no bigger picture. So
well, that's right. And for Australians, actually, if I was going to learn any language, I know a little bit of French, but I would embrace French because you can go to New Caledonia, which is only, one of the closest countries to Australia. It's all French.
Yes.
And then you've got French Polynesia, fantastic country, fantastic, just amazing. You don't even need to go to France to enjoy it.
Yeah.
You've got the paradise of the world speaks French. And we're locked out of it because we don't know French.
That's it. No, look, and it's just an exquisitely poetic, beautiful language. It just.
I think it is the nicest sounding language in the world.
Yeah, it's just at the front of the mouth, and it's
Italian is second.
It's so exotic and such a beautiful language to listen to. Czech's another beautiful language to listen to.
It's lovely to speak it too. It just rolls off the tongue.
Oh, it'd be great to have that skill. I
only did it, to a certain level, but it just sounded terrific.
Yeah. Oh, good.
And it's not so hard for English speakers either. Like Czech might be a bit of a challenge.
Yes, I think it's a bit hard.
But French isn't so bad.
Yeah.
And, look, you go to New Caledonia and very few people speak English once you leave the main city.
Yes.
And, it's... but then again, you don't really need to know any language, really. You can get along in country.
Well, you can get along, but you're so much richer for a culture
true,
if you have that immersion, and you're just sort of more connected in so many ways.
Exactly.
And I think that's the beauty of it. And there's so much that's in the subtlety of expression that you really do need to be able to read it and speak it. And but yes, I wish I'd continued with French, and only did it for 1 year.
There must be easy ways to learn it now with the
yeah,
and things.
there would be.
I'd love to go to French Polynesia and just look around those places,
Mm.
and just to be able to order stuff at places.
Yes.
So whenever the world comes to rest, maybe it's something I'd like to do.
Good for you. I reckon it's a great thing to aim for.
It's not that far away for us.
That's
really.
right. It's on our doorstep. It is very much so. Yeah. No, that's a great idea. So we can all we could have French on the air. That's what we could do.
We could. It's interesting the French. If you look at their, they've kept their empire.
Yeah.
They are represented all around the world.
Mm.
And they've done it for a purpose, obviously. So they're quite big in various places.
Yes.
So, they've kept that empire.
Mm.
And it'd be worthwhile to.
Oh yeah, I think so. In fact, I think I might have some French courses on 78s somewhere. I'll have to have.
We could all learn French again.
Yes, we could. We could all learn our French.
The Linguaphone records.
Yes, I think I've got a Linguaphone set of French records here somewhere. I'll have to have a look. That could be fun.
The problem with me is, a lot of people, I get really embarrassed pronouncing stuff wrong. And if you get like a computerized program, you can just pronounce it and you learn to pronounce things properly.
I give up before I even start. I don't even try.
Yeah, I get very embarrassed.
Yeah, I can understand. I find, similarly, I don't like to do it because I feel a bit self-conscious trying to speak the words because I never get the inflection right. You think being a musician I should, but I struggle.
I think some people are just natural linguistics. And I've worked with people who can speak 10 languages.
Yeah, sure.
Reasonably well.
Yes.
How the hell do they do that?
They do it. Yeah, it's something.
It's an amazing thing. It's like having your mind in different compartments. You can understand different languages.
Yeah.
And obviously, you go to Europe, Germany, Scandinavia, everyone knows English in about 5 different languages.
Yeah.
We are so pathetic compared to them.
I know. It always fascinates me is now whenever I'm speaking to someone, if I'm in deep conversation with someone who's multilingual, the question I always like to ask, and it really does intrigue me, is when you're speaking in a different language, do you think in that language? Do you dream in that language? Or do you think in your native tongue and then reinterpret it, or how does it sort of work? But I think people do learn to actively engage on every level when they're conversing.
Yeah.
But it's intriguing.
It's like if you're in Germany or somewhere and you hear you want some information, you hear people speaking in German, you just go up to them, speak in English. They know you just assume they know English perfectly, and they do.
Yeah.
I mean, they must think we're pathetic.
Oh, they would. Yeah. I'm sure they do. Yeah.
And I remember in Tasmania once there was on the south one of the walks there. There was a few people from different parts of Europe.
Yeah.
And they all spoke different languages, but they all had a common language.
Right.
And they could speak through that.
Yes.
And there were about 3 or 4 languages from that, what their native language was.
Okay.
And I thought that's just incredible.
Yeah. Well, it'd be a very deep connection, you'd feel.
It is amazing, really.
Yeah. It's an intriguing subject, but now I'll have to find that French records. I wouldn't mind having a listen.
We have to learn French.
If we can all practice in the privacy of our room, we don't need to converse on air.
No, that's right. We can do it all. Then we can just talk in French and no one will know what we're talking
exactly. That's true. Yeah.
David, Stéphane and François.
Yeah. Oh, Frank, you see, you've got the vernacular. You can do it.
You can be our tutor. We can have French on the air.
That's right.
Not broadcast off to the air, but French.
French on the air. The French language school, Linguaphonics with Frank. That'd be great. Yeah.
My French teacher used to call me François. She was gorgeous, and I used to love it when she said it.
Yes. That's right. There's something very, very personal about that language. Yeah. Well,
I had a young, gorgeous woman teach me French initially, and I fell in love with her. And she just got divorced. She was 10 years older than I was, and I didn't really know what to do. but she taught me French, and she taught me the right accent.
Yes.
But she used to say, "Arrivez-vous François," and I used to love it.
Oh, fantastic. Well, no wonder you speak it so well. Yeah, with that sort of connection, you've got to fall in love with your tutor. Yeah, that's brilliant. Well, in the same pile of records, there's another singer who sings with unbridled passion and commitment, and sadly, also became a prostitute, and that is Billie Holiday. So I've got a recording of hers here with Teddy Wilson, which I never knew I had, so let's put it on. And it's on an American Brunswick with "Not for Sale" stamped across, so it must have been a sample record sent out. But we'll put this one on, and then I'll find a Janis Joplin to finish, because I'm going to have to wind up and do dins. So, yeah, here's a track called "I'll Never Be the Same." Teddy Wilson and his band with Billie Holiday from, I think this record was made in 1936.
Oh, wonderful. Sounding good then.
Yeah. Billie Holiday and with Teddy Wilson and the band recorded, I think 36, 37. It's quite early, and she's just got such an amazing feel for music.
Just superb.
Amazing stuff. So, well, I'm going to have to finish up, folks. I'm going to wind it for the day, and I won't be around tomorrow. I'm heading up to Ballara first thing tomorrow and doing this bike thing, which is going to be interesting with the hot weather. It's going to be really hot the next few days, but we're doing this rail trail thing. It's all planned, so we'll do the best we can. And at least it'll be being outdoors, last sort of outdoor thing.
Well, Ballara's it's not that far away. It's a lovely area.
Yeah.
And we looked at a few places around there, which was really quite nice, actually.
Right.
And
yeah,
it's
Gippsland Hills.
Yeah, it's summer. I never knew it existed, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But it's quite, except 1.5 hours from here, really.
Yeah, that's right. It's not that far.
And you got the beautiful trees and things, and interspersed with farmland, and
that's it. And
it's really good.
And rolling hills and
rolling hills.
That's it. It's almost sort of English-like the landscape.
It is. Now, South Gippsland is the nearest thing to the rolling hills of England that we've got here.
I think you're right, definitely. And
maybe that Hutton Tableland's similar.
Okay.
It's a bit higher.
Sure.
But yeah, just rolling hills interspersed, bit of trees, bit of farmland. It's very similar. I remember travelling on train through England and thinking, gee, this looks like South Gippsland.
Yes,
there's more church spires and things.
Yes, that's right. And there's a town every couple of miles.
That's right.
But South Gippsland is a bit of a forgotten corner, and I'm looking forward to having a look around. And there's Murbu North, of course, which is also a pleasant little place.
It's a lovely little town.
Little towns. And
we stayed at Murbu North.
Oh yeah. Oh, very
with
good.
a couple of work friends, old work friends.
Yes.
Quite a nice place.
Yeah, it is. It's a beautiful city.
Sort of out of the main street.
Yes, it is, and it's a quiet, sleepy towns off the Grand Ridge Road. I'll probably spend more time in the car just checking out the area, really, just having a look around.
The Grand Ridge Road is an amazing road.
Yeah.
And it grinds along for quite a distance.
It certainly does.
And lots are unsealed. And it's quite rural and very high.
Yeah,
You can get back to Melbourne on 2 metres from a lot of the Grand Ridge Road.
Gosh, okay.
It's quite amazing.
Yeah, up at the top of the Strzelecki's. And of course, it's got those beautiful national parks, Tara and Bulga.
Oh, yeah, fantastic.
Which are beautiful sort of temperate rainforest pockets, and Turton Valley.
Cut down.
That's right, but the only bit that they didn't. And so, in fact, it just goes to show how rich, how dense that country must have been.
It must have been an amazing area originally.
Yeah. In fact, there's photos of places like Yarragon. In fact, there's a photo of Yarragon train station, which is still there, just in a complete valley of ferns, just totally surrounded by ferns and big trees. And it's the same building, which is now in the middle of the virtually in the middle of the freeway.
Amazing, yeah.
It's staggering. And there's a number of photos of Druin and Warrigal just stuck amongst the tall trees, and you just never, ever know now. So, yes, everything's sort of changed there. But look, there's some nice pockets. Mount Worth is a nice spot.
Oh, yeah, Mount Best. Oh.
Yeah, Mount Best, Turton Valley. Turton Creek, I think it's called. It's another nice rainforest creek up there. But anywhere around Welshpool, Foster, Yarram, it's an interesting area.
Well, enjoy a little ride and
get
too tired.
Yeah, I'll try not to get too sunstroked.
Too chafed or whatever.
Yeah, that's right. We'll do the best we can. We might just have to wing it. But anyhow, it should be good. And we'll be back on board next week, I presume, all being well. But... So we'll finish up, I think, with Janis Joplin. We'll have a listen to Little Girl Blue, which is just so mind-blowingly amazing. This performance is just...
Doesn't get more full-on than that.
It's just so powerful. So I'll turn the mic off and I can indulge. Yeah. All right then, fellas. Thanks for your company. We'll catch you soon. And
talk, Dave. Take care, Steve.
Yes, and you too. And at this point, I'll say vk3sl, saying cheerio, have a good week, and we'll be back.
Clear.
Cheerio. Bye for now.
Count your fingers. I know what else. What else can you do? I'd have told you, 'cause you got to know that all you ever gonna have to count on, or gonna wanna lean on, it's gonna feel just like those raindrops do when they're falling down on all around you. Girl.